Is the bottom in? While we're asking questions, what the hell is going on with alts, right? Hey guys, it's Keith Allen. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. I sure did. And pretty happy to see how the week is starting. There's a lot going on. And I'll be honest with you, I was contemplating what kind of theme I wanted today's analysis to be about. There's really a lot going on in the news, a lot of what I think is considered to be fundamental news relative to Bitcoin. And of course, lots to decipher in the charts, along with some metrics out of the MI dashboard that I'm going to share with you guys today. So we're going to get a sense of what is indeed happening, see if we can make sense of what's going on, see if we can determine if this data is pointing to the actual bottom being in and where price can go from here. We'll also look under the hood with some alts. Live chat, of course, is open today as per usual. So if you'd like to join me, I'd love to have you. You know, it really is a much better analysis when you guys join in. So by all means, if you've got questions, I'll do my best to answer them. If you've got insights you want to share, by all means, please do. And if you have alts you want to look at, I'll do my best to look up a couple of those as well while we're in the midst of our regular analysis. As always, if you haven't done so yet, do me a favor, smash some buttons, help me grow this channel. If you're new to the stream, I'm glad to have you. If you're an OG, been with me for a while, I really appreciate you. And we're going to do our best to give you something insightful and actionable you can work with today. So let's start on you know where I want to start? Actually, I'm going to start with some basic. Let's start with some basic news that I think lends itself some support to the argument. I guess we'll start with the candle chart, and then we'll go from there. We'll look at that news stuff. We'll see how that relates to what's happening with the price action, and we'll look at order book and order flow data and fire charts. We'll look at some more metrics on alts, and maybe even look up a couple of alts in the process. So let's go ahead and start sharing the screen here. I'm going to take it over to the X platform owned by the richest man in the world, who was a week ago feuding with the president. And I think seems to be both parties seem to be backing away from that because counterproductive probably for both of them. But a few things I wanted to share with you guys. You know, I think that, and I spoke of this last week, where it seems like there's maybe an evolution happening here with digital assets, most specifically Bitcoin, but obviously we have interest in some institutional interest in some of the other assets as well, like Solana, like Ethereum, et cetera. And we are hearing of Link and Ondo and XRP all being used in some cross-border payment stuff, both with banks and also now with the EU. Whether that's a good decision or not, that's probably a conversation for another day. But the point is, we're seeing some adoption at a really beyond an enterprise level, at a sovereign level on some of these assets. So I guess what I'm saying here is Bitcoin especially. We know we have this institutional interest with ETFs. Last week, we talked about the fact that Bitcoin's nemesis, Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan Chase, big, huge legacy TradFi bank, who has been anti-Bitcoin since day one, has, they're now paving the way for their customers to utilize BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, the IBIT ETF, as collateral on loans that originate at JP Morgan. Interesting, right? So now we know that there's going to be more adoption of at the very least, BlackRock's ETF, and that ETF needs to be tied to, or I should say, there needs to be a reserve of actual Bitcoin that supports those ETF purchases. So there will be more demand, certainly on BlackRock's ETF, but I would expect that other institutions are going to follow suit in this direction. And so, and I would also expect at some point that maybe this goes beyond the ETFs and actually works its way into physical Bitcoin. Either way, it spells increased demand for Bitcoin. Okay, so that's something to be mindful of, right? The supply is not getting a whole lot better at this point. 95%. I saw something today that said 95% of Bitcoin has already been mined, and 95% of people around the world don't own it yet. I think Pomp actually said that on CNBC this morning, something to that effect. Marinate on that for a second, right? What is that going to do for demand? And I keep hearing these things, like, reading things like, oh, now retail is now priced out of Bitcoin. Retail's not priced out of Bitcoin. You can buy fractional, but you can buy as little as $10 worth of Bitcoin. $10 isn't going to, go very far for you, but you've got to start accumulating at some point, right? And whether you do that incrementally or you do that in bigger chunks, certainly has to do with your situation. So I've been sharing a few reposting. Do we call it retweeting anymore on X? I don't know. I've been reposting some things that I read. James Lavish is a guy worth following if you're not following him yet. He says Bitcoin may or may not trade under 100K again, but will very likely trade up to $1 million in the future or higher. I think most people think higher. This is the type of asymmetric opportunity that professional investors scour the earth to find, and it's right in front of you. He says, have a great night. I say, what the F are you waiting for? SEC Chair Paul Atkins says, the right to self-custody crypto is a foundational American value. The SEC is recognizing that we have the right to self-custody our money, that we should not be forced to deal with intermediaries or pay exorbitant fees. That's also a huge shift. Caitlin Long, who's been a longtime advocate, she was in on that as well. Tom Lee, another well-respected TradFi investor, he says, oh, that's where I got it from. It wasn't from Pomp. It was from Tom Lee. He says 95% of all Bitcoin's been mined, but 95% of the world still doesn't own it. He has a conservative target of $3 million per Bitcoin in the years to come, but admits that he thinks it could go much higher. You hear guys like Michael Saylor put out some huge numbers. You hear Robert Kiyosaki put out some huge numbers. The span of numbers is a little difficult to digest, to be honest with you. One guy says 1 million, another guy says 3 million, another guy says 13 million, another guy says 100 million. How can anybody know at this point? And the answer is nobody can know. But it seems to be a safer bet that Bitcoin is going higher from the current all-time high at 112,000. There are too many people, too many institutions, too many corporations, and too many nations investing in Bitcoin and accumulating Bitcoin at this stage for it to not appreciate. Now, could there be volatility still? Absolutely. There can still be volatility, and there will be, but over time, that volatility is going to continue to narrow, in my opinion. We've already seen a lot of that compression of volatility, and over time, as more people own it, it is likely to become less volatile. Now, does that mean in the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years? What does it mean? It means that over time, we're going to see probably tighter swings of a range, and that we will see, in other words, dips won't be as deep as we've seen, and alternatively, pumps won't necessarily go as high as we've seen. In terms of a percentage gain, we've already seen that attrition over the years. In the short life that Bitcoin has actually had, it's just a teenager at this point, right? Bob Lucas, another very trusted analyst, says, happy Monday. New 60-day Bitcoin cycle is almost certain now. Just a matter of sitting tight and positioned here and seeing if we can get a repeat 60-day cycle. If you're not following these guys, I suggest that you do so. They definitely share some great knowledge and insights. So now let's move it over to the candle chart here. And last week I was talking about a potential head and shoulders pattern forming here, and it may have. I would have liked to see this go down further. To be honest with you, didn't, but this qualifies, I guess. A little shallower than I was hoping for. Um, and now you see we have some recovery. As I stated over the weekend, that the price was likely going to run it back after the economic reports on Thursday or Friday, whichever day that was. Uh, so here we see that happening here, right? And now, finally, another push above the 21-day moving average. This only counts if we can close above the 21-day moving average and print new full candle bodies above it. So we'll be watching for that at the close today, and of course, the remainder of the week if we can get full candle bodies up above. If we start seeing wicks below, then that to me is an indication that things will start breaking down again. Now, the lead into this analysis was, is the bottom in? And I would say in terms of Bitcoin, I do think that the bottom is in. Now, that does not mean that we can't go dip again or even revisit where that low is. But I do think that in the current environment, I think that this trend line remains valid. I think the 2025 yearly open is kind of a line in the sand here, and you see we have some confluence happening with the blue 100-day moving average right here and the purple 200-day moving average. All of these kind of jammed between the 2025 open and the trend line here. Our last support test happened right at the red 50-day moving average, and that had very close confluence with 100K. What were we? A few $100 off. 100,426. Yeah, that one missed my order by about $150, but I did pick up a little bit. We were actually watching, for anybody who watched that analysis, we were actually watching that dip develop during the live stream. And I commented that I was going to, rather than take the MTF signals as they were, I was going to wait to see if buying resumed, and it of course did. And I did take or I won't say I took a position. I added a bit to my existing position, and you can see here on the MTF mean reversion indicator that that did indeed appreciate. It's already gone over 5%. 5% was here, and we've already gone up more from there. So if you're having a hard time determining when is a good time to buy at this stage, using a mean reversion strategy like this can really be helpful. You can see here, didn't nail a perfect bottom at this deviation, but close enough to the pin, in my opinion. And we now find ourselves, prices already moved up over 5% from here. Let's see what the other signals were. We had some signals a little while back, I think a week or two ago. Yeah, we had another one in there as well. That one was pretty much a perfect bottom. So it is difficult to pick these levels on your own, and I would certainly encourage you to check out a tool like this. This is the MTF mean reversion indicator for material indicators that has a pretty solid track record of identifying dips with a high probability of bouncing. And here you see that happened right here. I had talked about alts and what we're seeing with alts, and I think this is pretty important to recognize as well. If we go over to the MI dashboard, this particular metric here is correlation of alts to Bitcoin, and it shows a 14-day correlation, and you can see that correlation, when it's the darkest blue is when it is the most correlated, and as it fades away towards red, it's the least correlated. And we did have a little period of blue, and we're now starting to get some red specks in there that show it as less correlated, or anti-correlated, if you will. But the chart I really wanted to show you here is price returns and drawdowns. And this shows a 14-day, let's get a refresh on that. This shows 14-day of price action, basically. Rolling 14 days of, let's get the right chart here. Price returns and drawdowns. Okay. So what this is showing us here, okay, this is for all coin pairs, and we could zoom, we could expand this and we'll see the shares. It's all compressed here, but there's over 400 pairs in this lot here. But since alts tend to move together, this works well for us, right? So we can see periods where the 14-day rolling returns went negative, right? And we happen to be in one of those periods now. There have been periods where it's gone deeper. So this would be like deep corrections. And you can see the bright yellow here on the drawdowns here. So this is profits, returns, and the bottom, this lower chart is drawdowns. And this is showing us a high number of alts are still in negative territory, right? 14-day negative drawdown, negative returns still of the vast majority of them. However, as you look here, you can see that their drawdown is decreasing. So at this point, when we're in those capitulation zones and we're seeing bright yellow, that's when we're looking at upwards of 40-50% drawdown. And we're no longer in that period, right? So we're just coming off of a period where we were in a 20 to 30% drawdown range. And now price is starting to recover from that. Now, will it be enough? Does it mean that we're not going south anymore? Does it mean that alt season is coming? Well, I would say the answer to all those questions is no, or not necessarily. Very difficult to say, I would, with certainty. Like the words always or never just don't seem to fit into my vocabulary when it comes to trading. And the reason is there are always different situations that present themselves. There's always some sort of a wild card that you didn't see coming. And under the current administration, there are plenty of curveballs coming our way. Like, for example, this week we have them telling us, we have the SEC telling us it's about self-custody. We have one of the president's digital asset advisors telling us that the administration is going to start accumulating Bitcoin. Now, they still don't give us any details on how that's going to happen. So, in my opinion, that equates to more hot air. It equates to another Trump pump. It works, right? The market responds to it. So there is that. But we also know that administration and the Trump family in particular have plans to buy more, and that the Trump family has raised over $2.5 billion, and I think they have a target of $3 billion to purchase Bitcoin with for one of their companies. And so, do you think they're going to do that when Bitcoin is at an all-time high, or do you think they're going to do that on a dip? And if they need a dip, guess what? They got somebody who can make that dip for them, and is willing to do so. Has and will do so again. So I wonder if we might still see another dip or more to facilitate those acquisitions for them. That said, because it is so difficult to make those decisions and those determinations, that I really am advocating a dollar cost averaging strategy at this stage for anybody who's not deployed at this point. Just quickly going back to this chart, we talked about the returns and the drawdowns. Here's another way to illustrate it here at the bottom, where the blue line is positive returns. So this is showing us what percentage of alts are showing positive returns at this stage, and really only 10%. However, and this is where it gets interesting, only 10% of alts are showing positive returns at this stage. However, if we flip to the drawdowns, less than 10%, we now have 66% of alts are experiencing drawdowns less than 10%. What that I interpret that as they're starting to recover. They haven't moved into profit on the on this 14-day cycle that we're monitoring here, but they have come off the lows. And so I'm looking for a pop here. I'm looking for an opportunity here. Now, I'm not at the point, and for those of you who have followed me for any time, know that I'm a pretty conservative trader in this game, and that I won't call myself a Bitcoin maxi, but I am, let's just say I have a whole lot more confidence in Bitcoin than I do in any alt at this point. Not necessarily to give me greater returns than any single alt at this stage, because we know that alts can fly and crash in no time at all. But I would say I'm accumulating Bitcoin for the long term, and I'm trading alts to generate more powder to buy more Bitcoin. So I'm only trading a handful of alts, but I am looking for some upside on those. I just have not, at least myself, found anything that I'm super duper confident in for a long term position other than Bitcoin. So that's my strategy. You have to do what works for you. And on the topic of alts, I guess we could look at a couple and see if we have anything that's moving into an interesting spot. One, obviously, ETH being the grandparent of alts, if you will. ETH has been underperforming for a long time, for a very long time, right? We had a top back in March of last year. We double topped it in December of last year, and alts just tanked from there, or ETH rather, just tanked from there. Came off of a bottom back in April. This was off of the big tariff announcement and the Liberation Day or whatever garbage that was. And now some consolidation here below the 200-day moving average for ETH. So where does it go from here? A couple things I'm watching is, look how the 21-day moving average leveled off. Are we going to see a golden cross between the 21 and the 200 up here, or is it going to go the other way for us? So watching this closely. In the meantime, you have some nice consolidation, and really what is looking a bit bull flaggy, if you will, right? I just actually am noticing this here, but let's just go ahead and see what that looks like, right? I mean, this could be a thing. Maybe it's a pennant. Let's just draw some lines. Oop. Just to get a sense of, and this is down and dirty. This is almost like right on the 200-day moving average. And this is down and dirty, right? So not the greatest drawing, but I think you get the picture here. So I'll be looking for resistance is basically at the 200-day moving average here. You break out of this, and then you have a real opportunity to go higher. Any dips down to this little trend line here, and let's see if I can just fine tune this a little bit for you guys. Let's go like so. Okay, what's that look like? And up here, it looks like we need to be more like something like that. Something like that. And so for an entry position, if you don't have one, again, we're looking at this structure, but I'm also looking at this 21-day moving average, right? So just like we saw with Bitcoin, where Bitcoin moved up, is ETH going to hold this 21-day moving average? So I'll be watching that. If it holds, that would be an entry, but not a great one in my opinion. If we get this, if we get a dip back below that 21-day moving average, then I'd be looking here to this trend line as a potential entry on ETH. Looks like you got a couple comments here. Let's see who's in the stream with us. Hello, hello. Always enjoy your streams. Learn a lot. Hey, that's what I'm here for. So I appreciate the feedback. Glad to have you with me, and glad you're gaining something from this. Alex, always good to have you with me. Alex has been an OG on my streams, and always good to see familiar faces here in the mix. Let's look at Litecoin. Litecoin is another one. Now, here's something interesting on the Litecoin chart. We actually have a death cross happening here on the Litecoin daily chart, where the 21 day, the the there was a golden cross a couple of days ago, a few days ago, on Friday, between the 50 and the 100 moving averages, and now we have a death cross between the 21 day and the 50-day moving average. This is shorter term, obviously, so I would, I guess I would defer to the higher moving average as you know, obviously more macro. Um, but this could create some volatility here. So you see Litecoin running into some resistance here at the 100-day moving average, and let's see if that holds. Otherwise, there could be another opportunity here. We've already lost the trend here. I actually took profit on my Litecoin position last week because of this breakdown. I didn't want to give it all back, and now I'm looking for another entry. So maybe that entry comes back down here at 83.51, but quite honestly, that might be a gift. So I'm just kind of watching this closely. If it's not, if this doesn't happen for me, then or things break down further, then I would look again down to this local bottom. But based on what we're seeing on some other coins, we could see some appreciation here. I'm just kind of watching this cautiously. I would be happy with an entry at this range, because I think long term it's a decent entry price for Litecoin. But this has been a coin that I've liked it for a long time because of their history of uptime and their trend and the number of transactions that they complete. I think that fundamentally, over time, that people are less likely to want to spend their Bitcoin and might be interested in transacting in Litecoin. Of course, now that USDC is coming on very, very strong with the recent IPO, we may see stables take over in the place of what we thought some other alts might do. So that's something to watch. I still have interest in this coin. I think sure, it's a Dino coin, but I think there's some potential here. So I'm watching for a decent entry here, and I'll dollar cost average my way in as well. Let's see. Let's look at Link. Link has been in the news recently, as has Ondo, for some transactions they're doing with I think MasterCard and Visa, perhaps. And so that's interesting to me. I think that TradFi is starting to kind of work their way through which assets. Like, everybody knows that the technology is better than what we've had in TradFi, especially when it comes to cross-border payments. So they're experimenting, right? They're experimenting with XRP and with Solana and Chainlink and Ondo. Will stables just take over? No telling at this point. It's certainly early. I think that Link is, at this stage, below the trend line. So looking for some stability here. And again, this one also going through some death crosses here that illustrate the downward momentum that we've had. I'm kind of at the stage where I'm looking for good entry levels on the charts, right? We got all this noise going on around us. How do you know? I'm just looking for good tactical entries at this stage, and I will scalp these, gladly scalp them. Chain links, for me, it's not something that I'm going to hold on to. I know guys who do. I know guys who trade very, very well on this stuff, but that's just not the way that I trade. So you have to do what you're comfortable with. But if you're looking for something like this, again, If you're not a great technician, there's a couple of things that you can do. One, you can use the MTF mean reversion indicator that I shared with you. You could use that for any asset, right? So we're just looking at Link. I would probably do a higher deviation for Link than I'm doing for Bitcoin, just based on volatility. I haven't really looked at this one in a while, so let's see how it's hitting. Yeah, so here's a major overshoot right here, right? So I would probably be on an alt like Link. I'd probably be at something like maybe 3% deviation, maybe even 4%. Let's see what's happening historically with that. Are we getting any other hits at that depth? So yeah, 3% looks pretty good, and as does 4%. You're not getting as many. The higher deviation you go, you won't get as many signals, but they're going to be solid signals, right? So the way that I use this, I do set up a grid. I'll put smaller money on lower deviations because you get more of them, and bigger money on the deeper deviations because you get fewer of them. And then I dollar cost everything together. So another thing that you can do is you can use something like our timescapes indicator that points to yearly and quarterly opens and closes. I mean, you can set it to anything. You can do weeklies or whatever you want, but really the annuals and the quarterlies seem to have a lot of bearing on price action, and the first week of those periods also. So let's go to the daily, and what were we just looking at? We were just looking at Link. Let's see where it sits on relative to its annual open. Like USD, we'll go here, and let's see. I don't even know how I have this set up right now. Okay, so let's just look at yearlies for a second. Okay, so the yearly open was at $20, just above $20, right? Oh, actually $21.68. So we're a long way from that, obviously, right? So holding support right now at a previous yearly open doesn't really matter what year. The fact that this line exists means it was a yearly open. So finding some support here, and potentially, you see some confluence here between the next level and these moving averages, which are death crossing. So I'm not confident that this is going to hold here at this point. I'll be watching this over the next couple of days and see if it indeed breaks down or starts to work its way up. If it can break above, if it can break above these moving averages that are death crossing, then you have at least more upside with the next resistance level. But I'm just not confident in where this is sitting right now. Sure, there's a 20% move, and if you did a relatively tight stop below that yearly open, not the current year, by the way, just whatever year this is that's showing up here. I mean, it's a decent risk to reward, but I don't love this trade at this point, to be honest with you. I think that Link is getting the benefit of some news of the day. We'll see if that continues from here on out. What is Alex asking about? Pol, POL, as in not as Polygon, right? Or maybe Polygon, right? It's different on different exchanges, by the way. Some still call it listed as like it's also still listed as Matic. Let's see if Alex is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about Polygon, formerly Matic? Let's see where this sits. So no history in terms of annuals because this was a new asset on Coinbase. Let's look someplace else and see if this is different. Yeah, not a lot of history because they changed it. So let's go to Matic because it's still listed on Coinbase as Matic, and so there's more history there. Not a ton, but still well below, right? Still well below the yearly open, which was up around 51 cents. And also, look at this, all these death crosses, one, two death crosses on the 50-day moving average here, more downward momentum, in my opinion, out of this coin at this stage. Yeah. So Alex clarified, yes, Matic, and this is, man, this is a coin I have a love hate relationship with. I've done very well with Matic at times, and I've been beat up a couple times from it. Um, and it's one that I think you can stake on Coinbase too. So I like it for that. But I don't like where it is sitting right now. So I would be watching this one pretty close. I wouldn't be aping in at this stage. That's just my personal opinion. Um, let's see on the daily. No new signal on the daily. On the weekly is showing a tentative long signal from trend precognition on the weekly, and the weekly time frames. I mean, this thing is completely wound up. So in terms of what we were talking about with whether alts have bottomed, right? I mean, look at the history here. This is coming off of a low, and maybe this is it. Maybe this is the recovery. So I would look to see a recovery of this 21-day moving average, or 21-week moving average, to signal a recovery and a real rally. Um, that sits right now at about 24 cents, 24, almost 25 cents. So from here, this is a risky move. However, I do like the fact that it's coming off of really a lifetime bottom. So how do you determine when it's safe to get in? I look for that validation. I look for what's happening here in terms of breaking above this 21 as a possible entry. In terms of the downside, I mean, a retest of support would be nice to see. This was actually that retest right here. It looks like, so we got two tests down to 17 cents. A little wick action goes below. This might have been it right here. So this is at the very least, double bottom support. Um, Another test would be great, but you don't always get them. So I'm looking for a break above the 21 to give me some confidence, maybe even see what happens if we draw a trend line down here. It's going to be very, very, very close to that. Even if it breaks this trend line, I would consider the 21-day moving average even more important than the geometry here on that line. Interesting. And one to watch, because again, if this is the bottom, and what were we looking at on this on excuse me, that's not the chart I want to share. What were we looking at on drawdowns here for Matic? Let's see. Going the wrong way. Oh, it's going to show us Poly here because this is on Binance. Okay. So at this point, big recovery minus just about 3%, about 4% drawdown over the past 2 weeks, meaning it's recovering. What was the low? Where was it? Past 2 weeks. That's about here, right? Just ballparking it. Down 80%. Jesus, that's nasty. So, I mean, after 80% of drawdown, and that's just in the last, well, that's since December actually. So, still 80% from December, from first of the year. That's just massive. So there is potential upside here. Again, I'm looking for a break of the 21-day moving average to have more confidence. 21-week moving average to have more confidence in a real rally. But you can see we're approaching these levels here on the daily chart, and really got to break above this cluster of moving averages, which is really just below what the weekly was by a penny. So, same kind of set of circumstances. To me, the safest move is to look at this on that weekly time frame and see if you get an entry up around here. That's just me. You got to do what works for you. How about fire charts? We haven't looked at this at all today, so let's I'll leave you with a parting shot here. Fresh look at what's happening on the Bitcoin chart to see where, see what whales are doing at this stage. You can see ask liquidity is stacking a bit here. We got about 40 million right here at this 110,000 level, almost 100. We're at 109, anyways, and another 38 million just above that at 110. So heavy ask liquidity up here. But check this out. Look at what's happening below. We have bid liquidity moving up. If we look at it on the daily chart, we get a little bit more granular, and we can see that bids did indeed come into play here. We had this block that came in yesterday and helped keep price elevated. And of course, the rest is history. We're seeing things appreciate here. I do expect to run into resistance up at this 110K level again. And whether this is the breakout or not is something we'll have to see, watch and see. But I'll be honest with you. In my opinion, until this, and this was a question on X this morning, how come Bitcoin isn't already at 200K? In my opinion, because there is still so much uncertainty, economic uncertainty, I think that there is that uncertainty is largely centered around tariff uncertainty. Like, this game is not over yet. We're still in this 90-day negotiating window with the whole world. And then there's a little bit longer on the 90-day window with China. So I think that part is not done yet. We have this mess going on in California, which is a huge distraction. And we have, we know the administration and the first family both interested in accumulating Bitcoin in the near future. And so we could see a potential dip for those buying opportunities. So I'm looking for that. I'm always cautious that might happen. I'm not selling any Bitcoin at this point, but I'm being very, very careful with my alts, and I am not letting them run down on me like I had in the past. I'm keeping it pretty close because I want to keep that cash ready to buy a dip if it comes. So one last thing I will leave you with, which, gosh, I hate to use the word hopium, but well, let's just say the market has some hopium that the Fed is going to cut at the June 18th meeting, which is in 9 days. So expect some ranging between now and then. And if these numbers stay like this, if the Fed doesn't cut, that's going to be a huge disappointment, and the market will respond negatively. And if the Fed does cut, expect the market to respond extremely positively. And we do have that news that there are things out there like options calls stacking at 300,000 for Bitcoin, I think, for the month of June. So there are some things that are pointing to very positive upside for the market. Just be cautious. And rather than ape it all in at once, dollar cost averaging is your friend. Hope that helps you out, gives you some insight to marinate on, help you make some trading decisions, at least some well-informed trading decisions, leaving you with a parting shot of the order book and order flow. You can see brown whales have been buying here. Purple whales doing a mix of accumulation with a little bit of profit taking along the way. And that is to be expected. Simple as that. Going to wrap it right there, guys. Hope this has been insightful. Hope you have a fantastic week. And as always, here's to trading smarter.